that's on the site plan now, an underground pipe system under this area that is for stormwater management, which is a requirement, so that your runoff post-development is no different than your runoff pre-development. So it detains the water and lets it run off at a slower rate than it would when you create parking lot. Well, that's required too. That's a sediment control basin.
So how long is that supposed to stay there?
Until once you stop the land disturbing activity, that would be filled in with large pipes covered with stone in a grid format. And then the stone would cover the pipes, and all the runoff from the site runs into those pipes, stores it, and lets it flow out through a smaller orifice so that the rate the water leaves the site doesn't impact the stream below the site.
So how long do we have to wait for that to be covered up? Because that's like sitting stagnant water.
Well, it's a sediment control pond. It does have some sediment, and it is stagnant water. Now, there were two. The one on this side has been filled in and grassed over already. But since this one will need to control the silt on this side, that's why it's been left. And if this is approved in the next few months, this will be under construction by the summer in the best world, if possible. And it has to be closed out before this can open. In other words, before this can open, this has to be paved and striped for parking, and so the basin would be completely gone. The fence, there's now a fence up here around the parking lot. That would be extended around the edge. There'd be a 6-foot tall board-on-board privacy fence to match what's there. And it would continue up to this side to the front of the store. And on the existing site plan, that fence is shown, but the piece between it was not. We've added that in too, so the entire parking area is surrounded by 6-foot high privacy fence.
So I thought that originally they was gonna put trees at the back to separate Freetown, because right now the house right in that little corner I pointed to.
Down here?
Yeah, that house is just memorial light. Yeah. Those people, it's like a spotlight into their house.
Well, there's trees planted along the back that have to grow. I mean, they are growing.
So that looks like the existing trees. It don't look like new trees were planted.
Well, there's some existing trees also that were, those trees, there's 20-foot strip that you can't touch. The strip across the entire back has not been touched. That was actually marked off during construction, and that's a requirement of the county not to disturb that 20-foot strip. And then there's also a strip along Freetown Road that was never disturbed. Part of it's on Freetown Road, part of it's on this parcel. But that's never been disturbed. Now in the wintertime, when there's no leaves on the trees, you get a little more view, obviously, winter view of this. So.
And what are you gonna do? Have they looked at the traffic right now? It's impossible to get in and out on the Freetown side and the Whiting Lane side. It's almost impossible to make a left-hand turn to go down to 64. There's times I have to come out and force myself to drive 250 to Charlottesville because I can't cross over. And then when you add all this additional stuff, it's gonna be impossible to get. It's already impossible.
Well, I wouldn't say that the traffic on 250 is any different. Actually, the study that was done when we originally proposed this development actually is greater than what was originally built. And this right turn lane that was built as part of this was actually a way to remove the cars and let them slow down so that the pass-through traffic could keep up speed, which isn't necessarily helpful in your situation. Because
Since it's already knocked down my mailbox twice. My neighbor had to beat my mailbox back up one time because somebody crushed into it, turning into that store.
well, if you want to talk about that, actually from Freetown over to here, this is actually a wide open too, because the trucks are not confined. Right, but they turn left a lot of times too, which is conflicting, but there is no way to control that. This is designed for the only crossover from here down to 64 to make the left-hand turn. And at the time we did this, there was an option for Freetown to actually, there's actually an easement here for Freetown to actually come in and use this entrance This was mandated by VDOT all the way across the site to provide an easement so that everybody could come to one defined point, which helps to control traffic, because the people turning left and right actually stop out there in front of this entrance. And that was declined by the Freetown residents at that time. I don't know of anybody that wants to open that again, but the easement does exist. So you would have the rights to do that if that would. Well, you're on this road, right?
No, on the other side.
She's on
Oh,
the
you're on the
other side,
driveway. Okay.
and I'm on this side, and both, when you turn into you're petrified that you're gonna get rear-ended because the people don't think there's a turn, so they just ride up on you.
Well, up here, at the beginning, right here, this right turn lane is all built, so those, anybody turning in here or for your entrance can get out of the travel lane.
But they think you're
Not-
going to
not
turn,
built.
they think you're going to turn into the gas station.
Right.
So
There's
you have to
nothing-
slow,
there's
you have to
no
slow way
turn
down
for
to
us.
turn down the driveway.
It
You have to
begins
put
there,
on
it
your
goes all the way.
sign. And sometimes you gotta pass your turn, and turn around because the people think you're supposed to turn into the gas station.
And I do realize that, it was one of those complicating factors that joining everybody into one entrance was what VDOT pushed us to do. But we very honestly couldn't get anyone to agree to allow us to do that. Because we had proposed to actually close this entrance and join everybody so that you have the definition and could come in at the end of that turn lane. And I don't,
Fine over there, but what about this one?
I mean, on this side,
Yeah, you just-
this is actually,
the side that has no turn.
right here,
Yeah, no turn.
I think you're probably also being impacted by what's happening in the old Moose Lodge.
No, ma'am, we're not.
This was way before the blue line,
No.
Oh, I know, but I mean, you're a residential driveway, and residential driveways have the rights along there to come out on 250 at any point, and there's no control over that. But there is also an easement there, to let the properties on this side join over to this entrance too. And I'm not saying that that solves your issues, and I'm not saying that, one thing that could be very helpful would be to lower the speed limit along this section, but that's not something we have control over. But if someone's exceeding the speed limit, it's not a good situation for anyone. And there's a lot of people exceeding the speed limit.
No, actually, I mean, I would challenge everybody to look, to come drive past that and see that there are turning lanes for coming into that entrance, but there's no turning lane at all. The new lanes that have been written are confusing in front of our driveway.
In front of this
There's
driveway.
nothing. There's nothing at all.
It's just like it was.
There's no middle, there's no turning lane, there's nothing. It's just,
See, technically,
you have to take a risk and turn.
I'm gonna offer this, and maybe we have to let some other questions come in, but technically, turning left out of your driveway is not legal technically, because there's a double yellow line out there.
I'm talking about turning into my.
Because you guys put in the restoring station.
No, it's that way all the way to 64. Technically, when you see a solid yellow, you're not supposed to turn over it, but there's none in this opening. I'm just saying technically, people do it all the time, but it means you're doing something that's adverse to the mainstream of the
But the traffic pattern is more complicated.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I'm not saying that you have, it's not an unusual situation along this stretch is what I'm trying to point out.
I have another question. So you're saying you're gonna elevate the rest of the sloping, I live on this side, okay?
Okay, on
That's
this-
my driveway that goes
right
around.
here.
I live over
Back here, right.
So.
Your driveway is actually on here and turns over to the house, the
And
closest
my
house is
right
right here.
here. So what you're saying is the bottom part that slopes down, so right now you have the top, this top part up here without the new part. You just have that square right there, and it's elevated. So behind that is a little back diesel area.
That's this whole area on this
Right,
side.
and so that's up.
Well, when this building addition is done, it'll be level, but it falls off going, I mean, this point here is lower than this point here.
But it
It's
will-
going down at about 2%. But this will match up with what's there.
So-
And this gully will be filled with dirt and stormwater pipes and stone and pavement.
But it's not going to slope as much, it's going to be lifted up.
Correct.
Okay, so right now,
Nobody's touching your driveway.
that's fine. So right now, from my house
the lights, and these were lights that went through both architectural review.
That's fine, but more lights are coming, right?
And much
So,
further
a
south.
6-foot fence, if it's gonna be raised up,
Yes.
a 6-foot fence, I mean, is it possible for a higher fence to be, because a 6-foot fence, especially if the land is gonna be raised up, and I can see them now, I'm gonna see them
Well,
all.
I can't, let me talk to you about, the rules are a half-foot candle in the property line. All of these lights are gonna be at least, at the very minimum, 22 feet away from the property line first. We know that, because the 20 feet has nothing, we can't touch that, okay? So this edge of this parking lot is about 22 feet from the edge of the property line, from the woods along here, okay? So that's one thing. The other thing we could look at is having lighting is important for security and safety. But we could look at on-building lighting, which is a little bit lower and more focused on the ground. We are using the fixtures that are full cut off so it doesn't spray up into the sky. But very frankly, back here, the reason you can see the lights from that corner is that you're lower on Freetown and you look up and you're looking under the fixture. If you were at the same elevation and you look at a light and say you can't see the fixture, the bulb, but when you're below it and look up, you can. But we could look at doing more on-building lighting here.
I'm not below.
They're at the top,
I'm not
and
below.
we're
I'm
below.
on this
You're
side.
below, okay.
I'm not Freetown. I'm
Right,
on
but I'm just talking to you about the difference.
So,
I'm up,
Making it level will be more helpful with the lighting
but
than,
having a higher fence would be really more helpful so that the
are you,
lights don't shine.
because it sounds like y'all gonna bulldog your way through this whole thing, and just do it. And-
No, we're-
And so, right, you're gonna do it. And you just, and I actually take a little bit of offense to some of the things you said, it kind of like, it's our problem, and
No,
this happened, no, but you haven't, I just wanna say that.
okay.
But are you willing to at least consider putting a taller fence along that driveway side? That literally, that corner right there, that's gonna be right against our property line. Your building envelope, right there, where that last parking lot is at the bottom left-hand corner.
But yes, from this property line up to this point is 20 feet, and this is, I think, 30 or 32. I can get some more exact measurements. But this is not at the property line.
I'm
It's
talking-
well
it
off the
just
property.
about is. So what I'm asking
This
is, how
is the-
tall of a fence are you willing to put to separate our properties on
Well,
this
we
side?
can talk about it. We had originally, we looked at doing an 8-foot fence, but it's one of those things too that's kind of something you work through the approval process, and now it's showing the closer we can put it to the curb would also be helpful, because closer to the curb,
Curve of what?
the curb, in other words, if the fence is at this elevation instead of downwards, we actually moved it. Originally it was proposed down lower, and we moved it up behind the curb, because the height is more realized if it's closer to what you want to protect. If you put it down the slope where it was originally shown, all you're doing is blocking the slope, but if you move it up so it's at the same elevation, what we need to do is maybe put a section through the site. And the other thing about lights, we could look at doing lights that are more internal and not at the edges, and that's something we can look at. I'm not saying we
Okay,
won't.
so other question, we heard the planning committee, cause I attended all these meetings, and the planning committee gave you guys a 16-hour, hours of operation. And now we hear trucks all night, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, all night long. Evidently, you guys are letting them use, credit cards or something to continue, because there are trucks in there 24 hours.
All night,
Stay
all night long,
staying
all night
there,
long.
staying there.
I think somebody's breaking into my house, and I'm not that close to, I'm the furthest house away from the gas station.
Well, what you're talking about is a zoning issue, it's highway commercial property. The hours of operation apply to the store. Most all gas stations and have pumps that you can use credit cards with.
So
But
you treat
we are
us-
asking,
you treat us as nothing.
no, we are asking in this amendment to remove the hours of operation, because the hours of operation were actually imposed to limit water. And what the real crux of this is about the right to use the highway commercial property within the water limits. And by limiting the hours, that's how they have to be related.
But the hours on the gas pump aren't limited.
Well, what we're asking for under this application is to remove any restriction on the hours of operation. The
You
reason
already
being,
have one on.
So your mother is going crazy.
well, we're,
Maybe
This-
I'm not right with this, but I thought the original, your current operations was to operate no more than 60 hours a day. And that there was supposed to be a gate or something, you know, even just.
To my knowledge,
something
I-
very simple that
Yeah.
would lock that parking lot off, so it wouldn't be people sleeping in their cars or truckers or teenagers together or whatever it is. It would be closed.
well, and I understand our application now is, as it relates to the special use permit, all the restrictions on the special permit are geared to water usage. That the